A lot of people have asked me questions and like about, like deeper parts of my testimony. Uh like, my childhood, kind of where drugs started at and where my criminal life started at. So I want to talk a little bit about that. I heard somebody telling their testimony, a youngster telling his testimony, and a lot of the stuff that he was saying about his childhood and just kind of how he got into drug addiction and stuff. I could relate with a lot of it, and it really like spoke to me. And then God showed me right there, like that, that's how the situation is with my testimony. Like if I talk about the stuff that I've been through, people can relate with it. You know what I mean? So, I mean, when I speak about Jesus all the time and stuff like that, like that's speaking about the Bible says that we're saved by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. So Jesus shedding his blood is a part of what we're supposed to share with people, but also sharing our testimony with people. So this is definitely going to be a series. So I can imagine that, as I'm sharing this, there's going to be cutoffs at the end of these videos where people are going to be like, well, what happened after that? Like, so that's the whole point of the series. So I'm going to go ahead and get it started. Just kind of talking about, like I said, my childhood and about like drugs and like criminal stuff, because that's what my life has entailed. That's what Jesus has pulled me out of. So I'm going to get into it. So, but I just pray that God leads me in this in Jesus' name, that, that that it's for his glory, like I'm not trying um, to glamorize anything or anything like that, but it is what it is. The truth sets you free. Like it is what it is. Like I've been through what I've been through, and I've had, you know, the things happen in my life that have happened, and I'm just being honest about it. So I'm gonna go ahead and get it started. I keep saying that. So when I was younger, um, thinking back to my childhood, I want to go ahead and put this out there, like up front. Like my family was always try to teach me like good morals and good values. Like I went through some struggles. My parents weren't perfect. Like I went through some struggles. Like and everybody has mistakes in their life, but for the most part, I just want to give a shout out to my family because they've always loved me. They've always tried to be there for me, and like I was the outcast. Like I was the kid that got in trouble. I was the kid that wanted to get high and do things crazy. So you know, um, so I don't want to, I'm not trying to like make anybody else's life or person seem bad because of the mistakes I've made. So I'm just trying to be upfront about that. Like, you know, uh, for a long time I did blame things on different people, but at the end of the day, like I could see like that people tried, like the adults in my life, like they tried, and like I'm fathering a 6-year old right now in my life, and like it shows me a lot about like the way that the effort that was put into my life by the adult figures in my life, and how I just was beyond like receiving any instruction. So uh, my drug use, when I think back and I start thinking about like when I started getting in trouble and stuff, like one of the biggest things that sticks out of my mind immediately, it comes to my mind, was around the same time that I started getting in trouble. I started listening to hip hop music, and uh, you know, I was listening to like Too Short and uh, Tupac and like all these rappers and stuff, and like I don't know, there was just something about the music that like that fed me, or I felt like you know it was something that pulled at me, like this is something that like I want to be a part of in some way, I guess. um I was curious about it, and I thought it was cool, and You know, it just seemed like a certain type of freedom to me. Like it just seemed like an attitude. Like, you know, like screw you, I'm better. I do what I want, I get what I want. Can't nobody tell me nothing. Ladies like me. I got all the nice things. You know, like it sounds like a fairy tale, you know, like so I was really drawn to that. Um but when I think back, I started running away from home when I was like probably like 12 or something like that. Like 12 years old, I started running away from home, and you know, I was listening to bad music. I couldn't like pay attention in school. Like I was always kind of getting in trouble and stuff. And like, so I started running away from home and trying to be gangster, you know, like I thought in my mind, like that's the identity I want, you know. Uh, and I thought to myself, like, you know, like I just want to be able to do what I want. Like screw rules, screw anybody telling me whatever. Like I just would find a way out of whatever, you know. So, but I started getting high. Um, I started experimenting with like weed and you know alcohol and stuff like that. And you know, little by little, I remember like you know experimenting around with like acid and pills and all that stuff. And I moved around a lot when I was a kid, and you know was always in different schools and like traveling to different places. So I really didn't like get very close to people. Uh, and I learned how to fit in real quick because I was always like gonna be like in different places. Like I'd get close to somebody, next thing you know, we're moving again. So, but I remember like doing drugs and stuff like that, and like skipping school and like um I used to run away from home a lot. You know, I'd find myself in crazy situations. You know, like one time I was at this house and they were like, "Yeah, somebody just blow their brains out last night." And I was like, "How'd that happen?" They were playing Russian roulette. So I was just like, "Okay." And then I was around like a lot of like areas where people are getting beat into gangs and stuff. And I thought about it. You know, like I thought about it, like you know, like maybe that's something that's cool or whatever, like to do, but I just never really got into it. I just kind of stuck to myself. It just didn't make sense to me. Like, why I'm running from rules? Why am I trying to get into something that's got a bunch of rules? Like, you know. Uh, so yeah, I started. And like when I think back, like my mom tells stories and stuff about like me always like believing in God, and like she, you know, they had me in like different Christian camps and schools and stuff, and the pastor or like the people from the churches, they'd be like, "How does he memorize scripture so good and remember it? Like that boy's got a calling on his life, you know." But I mean, it sounded good and everything, but like I said, I had my own agenda. I was just trying to like get high and have fun for real. Uh, but so I remember traveling around a lot. The criminal stuff started because I was just like hanging out with the wrong crowd and stuff, and I think it like had to do with getting drugs, like because like I'm trying to get drugs. And like, so I either need to start selling them or figure out another way to like get money, you know? So I was just hanging out with a bad crowd and stuff. And, you know, we used to skip school, and the crowd that I was hanging around, it was like, why don't we just like go break in some houses? So I used to skip school, and stuff makes me feel bad when I talk about it. I ain't gonna lie, but like, I'm just trying to be 100. But like, we used to skip school, and like just you know like go into the neighborhoods and like hit houses. We try to find out who's got the drugs, you know what I mean, or like stuff that's really valuable, and go hit the house and get it, and then go back to school like nothing ever happened. So we were like taking stuff and putting it in like somebody's attic, my friend's attic or whatever. And I just remember, man, like I remember one time I was in this house, right, and like I'm in the kitchen, and like for no reason at all, like we're just looking for stuff that's valuable, right? But for no reason at all, I grabbed this like mantle that had like all this like pottery, like kitchen stuff on it, like with like flour and stuff like that in it or whatever, like a bunch of different stuff. And for no reason at all, I just grabbed this thing and just crash it on the ground. Like, where did that come from? Like, why would I do that to these people? Like I was just like crazy. And I grabbed it and I crashed it on the ground and I was like, yeah, like I felt like I was like something was inside of me just trying to like outrage or whatever, like crazy. And but that's how I ended up getting caught for that though. So we was on our way back to school, and we like I looked behind me, I turned around and I looked behind me and there was like cops coming like on a couple streets back or whatever, and I was like, yo, there's cops, and I started running. Well, next thing you know, I'm like running through this like little field area and some grass, and I'm like running towards this fence. And I get to this fence, and I turn around and there's a cop grabbing my shirt. I'm trying to hop over the fence and he's got my shirt, and I was like, yo, how did you just catch me? Like, you're fast. Like, oh my God. It was the only thing I said to him. I was like, how did you just catch me? Like, I don't even get it. And he's like, well, you just got lucky and got a police officer that was the ex running back from Notre Dame. And I was like, well, dang, that's crazy. So they got me and they took me and they put me in the car, and they asked me to come over to me, and they're like, can we see your shoes? Well, the shoes that I had on, I was like 14, 15 years old. My grandma had just bought me some Nikes. And I had the shoes that I had on. They look at them, they were brand new, and they grabbed them and they took them for evidence. Well, they ended up finding my shoe print in the flour that was on the floor in that house. So I ended up getting locked up, and they were saying there was like a string of like 30 burglaries in this town. And so I'm sitting in juvenile with my family coming to get me, and I'm in there for burglary. And not only that, but I'm in there for suspicion of like a bunch of burglaries, which I don't even think we did all these burglaries. When I say I don't think, like I know we didn't do as many as they were saying. But they had like it was in the newspaper. They had like dots all over the town in the newspaper, like places that had been hit. And I was like, dang man, I'm in like some serious trouble. So they had took me to court, and my mom came to court, and they were like saying that they were going to give me like a lot of years, like 8 years or something crazy, like hold me all the way till I was like 23 in the adult system, something a while. And I was like, man, I'm crying. I'm like 15 years old, but I'm in jail. Like at the same time, like I'm trying to figure all that stuff out, like survival tactics. Like, what do I got to do to be able to survive in here? Like I'm in juvenile, and I just remember in juvenile, like just laying in my cell on the floor at night and like singing rap songs and like feeling like I was graduating into this lifestyle that I chose. And like, but at the same time, like my family were trying to help me, like they would like come in and to visits and stuff like that. So how I got out of that situation basically is my mom had come to court and agreed to get me into a Christian school, like some type of boarding school or something. And so at the time, the judge was like, well, check this out. I'm going to give you this sentence, this long prison sentence, whatever it was. I think it was like 21, 22, 23 years old. And I'm like 14, 15. That's a long time to go to prison as a kid, you know? And they were like, we're going to go ahead and send you to prison. But if you, your mom can get you into that treatment, then we'll call you back and we'll let you, like I'll consider overriding the sentence or something. So they sentenced me up the road for this time. And like my only hope was that my mom, so here I am, I'm going to prison. So I'm going to uh the center where you go when you first get there, where they do diagnostics on you and everything to see where they're going to send you. So I'm in prison. I'm in juvenile prison. I'm about to do an 8-year bid or something crazy. And so now I'm starting to figure stuff out there, like, but I was still getting high and stuff like that. I'm trying to find out who has pills and like trying to figure out, like I really didn't know how to fight. Like I'm like, man, I got to figure out like how to stand up for myself or how to slick through this or whatever, because at that time, like I I really hadn't learned how to fight. Like every time I fought, there's a couple times I fought somebody and I had really won, you know. Like sometimes I get drunk or like high and I would go and like, you know, steal on somebody or something just to kind of make myself look tougher than I was. But I hadn't figured it out yet. You know, I was still young, like 14, 15 years old maybe. Um, so I was just kind of worried about it a little bit, but at the same time, I was just trying to get high. That was still my motive. So I was just constantly looking for a way to get high or whatever. And same stuff, you know, like just singing bad songs, like just conniving, trying to weasel and figure stuff out. Like it was just the same old stuff, man. But so she ended up coming and getting me out of that situation because she came to court, got me into that place, right? So the judge brought me into court and he said, okay, so this is what we're going to do. We are going to kick you out of the state of Ohio at least till you're 18 or something like that. Or I think maybe 23. I don't remember what it was. I'm 37 years old now. But anyways, they said we're going to kick you out and because your mom's we're just going to let this sentence drop and we're going to kick you out of the state and good luck to you. You're going to this Christian school now. Well, I ended up not going to the Christian school. Somehow I talked my way out of that. So I ended up going to Florida. I moved in with my mom. So I had been kicked out of all the regular schools. So every school that I went through, I got kicked out of the schools. And so I ended up going to Florida. When I got to Florida, it was just, everything was just turned up. So I get to Florida. I had a friend there that was like into the rave scene. And like, you know, there was just a lot more drugs and stuff. I moved into Clearwater, Florida, like right outside of Tampa. And my mom had like remarried or got with another person that she used to be with when she was younger. And they got into a serious relationship. And he was really good to me, like really trying to help me. I remember him like trying to like help me build a new room as an addition to his house and stuff. And like, but I remember like going like, you know, like I was just sneaky and always trying to get high. I remember going to like going into the fridge in the garage and like getting into the beers. Like I was like a full blown drug addict, alcoholic from the get. When I was drinking, I remember sneaking into the garage to get into his beers, and I would literally go down into the garage, and I'm like 15, and I'll crack a beer open and just down the whole thing, and then crack another one open and down the whole thing, like literally like 4 or 5 beers, like to get this thing started, like off the chain. So then I would get wasted, and I just remember like when I would get high or whatever, like I would feel more confident, like I would feel like I was cool. And I would feel more confident, you know, like, I don't know, like, I remember, like, feeling like I could talk to ladies better, you know what I'm saying, like, girls better, um, but, so I ended up, but I would always go over to my friend's house, and, like, he had all these connections with, like, people that were, like, selling a lot more drugs, you know, than I was used to being around and stuff, so, um, but, like, so I ended up, I'm going to rave parties. I'm going downtown to Ybor City, which is like downtown Tampa, and like going around and basically selling drugs like ecstasy pills and cocaine and weed. But I'm doing a lot of it too. Like I was doing a lot of coke. Um, I was doing a lot of X. Like I was doing a lot. I was getting into it. Like I was like studying it and learning about it. Like I remember the first time I took ecstasy. I was in this. I was at a like a rave party at my boy's house, and like he like gave me one of the pills. He was like, "Yo, just try this pill, you know, like take this pill." And I was like, all right, you know, like. And so some girls were coming over and stuff, and like, and man, I remember when I took that pill, like it was like the most amazing feeling to me. I was like, oh my gosh, like it makes you like sweat, but you're like they call it blowing up, like where you like this. I'm not trying to promote this. I'm just telling you like this is how I felt. Um, but you know, so I remember just like man, this feels so good and stuff like that, right? and I was just hooked. Like, like with Coke and X, like that was like my thing. Like, and I realized how cool like you were if you had it, like you were like really popular, like everybody wanted to be around you, like it made girls want you and stuff like that. And like and so I just remember like getting wasted on that stuff. We would stay up for days at a time. Like we would be like, because they would say if you took one of the pills, you had to take like two the next day and then four the next day. Like you always had to double it in order to still roll, is what they call rolling. So I would just do it like crazy amounts. I'm talking about like people die off of drugs and stuff. Like I remember like I don't know how I didn't die. Like I never like there was no limit. Like I think I was kind of smart about it. Like I would just kind of look around and like what I want to see that somebody else had done it and been okay. So it wasn't like I was just doing whatever like an idiot. I mean, I at least thought about it a little bit. Like I would look and see like is it or are they okay when they do it? But yeah, it just totally had a hold on me, man, for real. Like, but I ended up, so what I was doing, and I was like, man, I was like ruthless. Like, so this is what happened, right? So I remember when I was younger, like, I was like I'd ask for money. Like, I'd ask my family, like, yo, could I get $20 from my mom or my grandma or whatever? I'm young. And I'm skipping school, like, I'm not going to school. Like, I figured out that if I skip school, they would kick me out for skipping school. And I thought that was the coolest thing ever because now I don't have to go because you kicked me out. Well, then they would try to find somewhere else to put me, or whatever. And, but yeah, I just kept like, that same type of, because I'd skip school. Like, I didn't want to go to school. Like, I was like, forget this. Like, I'm gangster kid. Like, I'm cool. Like I'm too cool for school. Like, whatever. Like that's how the attitude I felt. Like, I'm just still listening to this gangster rap and like, it's just flooding my mind with more and more of this stuff that makes me feel like I ain't gotta follow rules and like forget the world and like all this stuff. Like, and in my heart, like I always believe, like I said, my mom used to point it out to me. Like I always believed in God and stuff. Like, but it just hadn't got a hold of me yet. Like I knew, like God didn't want me smoking. God doesn't want me, cussing. God doesn't want me messing with girls. Like I knew all that stuff. I just didn't want to listen. I was like, yeah, I know, God help me. And then I go right back to doing what I'm doing. So, I just remember, but like what I was saying, like I used to like ask people for money, like try to get money, right? Well, then I started like learning how to talk to girls. So I'd like talk them into buying the drugs or whatever. Then I started learning how to sell drugs, right? Well, then I started learning that I could steal stuff and carry my habit. But I did some stuff that I'm not proud of, man. Like I remember taking stuff like I'd get in my grandma's purse or my mom's purse. Like, let me put it to you like this. I'd try everything else. But if something happened and I didn't have no drugs, like I couldn't even cope without it. Like I just wanted to be high all the time. Like high during school, high after school, high no matter what. And I just remember feeling like that made me feel like I'm okay. And if I didn't have it, then I felt like like not as cool or not as much confidence or like I couldn't really relate or talk to girls. Like it was just weird. Like none of it was true. Like none of that was true, but it just gave me like a confidence that I didn't have if I wasn't using it, right? So, um but anyway, so I used to like steal. I'd take stuff out of it, like just look for valuable stuff in the house. Could I get away with taking this? But I started getting to a point where I didn't even care. Like the drugs had me so much, like I just wanted to be high, and I didn't mind. It didn't mind to me that if somebody else was getting hurt because of it. It didn't mind to me that, you know, I didn't even think about, like, it didn't even cross my mind that people are sad or that they're hurt or that, I mean, seriously, the only thing crossed my mind is whether or not I'm getting in trouble. Like, that's what crossed my mind. And then I didn't even care about that. It was like the immediate gratification thing. Like, if I could just get this now, these drugs now, like, I'm good. They ain't gonna catch me, like, I used to run away and stuff. So, like I said, I started stealing. Like one time, my mom had to call the cops on me, like, cause I took some stuff out of the house from her and my aunt. I broke into our own house and tried to make it look like somebody else did it, so I could take some jewelry or something. And like, man, like if some, I can't. I'm just telling you, like this upsets me to even talk about it, but like I'm just being for real because as bad as it sounds, like there's people that are going to hear this that have done the same stuff or are doing the same stuff. So like people try to act like they're holier than thou and like they never did nothing wrong. Like I'm not that person. Like I've done a lot of stuff that's not good, that I'm ashamed of. It even hurts me to talk about it. Like I don't even like talking about this stuff. Because the old me is dead, but at the same time, like these things really happened in my life. So, but yeah, so like cops got called on me. Well, anyways, like, and I was also, listen to this, like, we would move into a place like an apartment and I would break in every car in the apartment complex. Literally every car. I remember being drunk. I'd get wasted to do it. That's another thing. I was always high, which would help me not feel bad about it. Let me just be real about that. Like, I think there was a part of it, like to help myself not be aware of my conscience and like what I was doing. Like, I would just stay high. So I'd get wasted. I'd drink a bunch of liquor or something and then go rob some stuff or go steal some stuff. But we'd move into an apartment complex. I'd hit every car in the apartment complex. I'm talking about first, I'd start with doors open, unlocked. Doors are unlocked. Like, I'm checking the door. There's keys in there. I'm driving that car. Like, that's how bad it was. Like, I would take off in the car. I'm driving all over the city in somebody's whip. Police are looking for me. I'd drive around, go like do stuff with the whip and then bring it back and park it in the same spot. Like the person might not even know. Like I was doing this like a lot. Take somebody's motorcycle and stick it in the like try to sell it. Like take the motorcycle, not even the motorcycle, like the racing bikes. Put it in the back closet. Like I'd open up the back closet of my mom's house, like on the back patio, and stick a motorcycle in there, standing up on the wheels. Like stick a motorcycle in there, standing up on the wheels. Like, man, I hope she don't see it. I hope I can get rid of it before she sees it. Like it was bad. Write people's checkbooks, writing checks, trying to cash them. So let me put it to you like this. So at this time of my life, I'm 15 years old. I had 9 felonies and 17 misdemeanors. So this is the way it worked, right? They would lock me up and give me charges, whatever it was they were locking me up for. Man, listen to this. One of the times they locked me up, they put me inside of so I figured out, well, most of the time I was wasted all the time, right? So when they arrested you and you're a juvenile, if you're like too wasted, they took you to a different part of the jail complex called JARF, which is Juvenile Assessment Rehabilitation Facility. Obviously, I'll never forget that. But so this JARF center, they took me to this JARF center, right? It's at the jail. It's the jail. It's just where they take you if you're intoxicated because they got to make sure you're okay. Like how much drugs do you have in your system, right? So what I learned was whether I'm wasted, I would just tell them like, hey, I just took like a bunch of Xanax and cocaine. Like I would just tell them that. Even if I just took a little bit, I'd say I took a lot. And so they'd take me to this JARF center because when you went to the JARF center, there was like girls there too in the women's section. And there was girls there and there was like, they called it JARF juice. I know this sounds petty, but I was young. I was like 15. But they had this like good juice and some snacks. And like, you ain't getting none of that good stuff when you get over to the jail. I mean, it's still like when I've been to the adult system, the penitentiary and, and jails and stuff like that. Like it's way better than the adult system. But for a kid, it's like you felt like you weren't getting nothing that good at all. So anyways, it was like, it just was like a slick move. I felt like I'm being slick to just say, oh yeah, I'm going to die or something because I just took a bunch of drugs, So they take me to the JARF center. Well, next thing you know, you get over to the JARF center and I was real manipulative and I was real good at talking, like especially with women. And I'm not saying that to boast, like I'm just being honest. Like it was a hard thing in my life. Like when I was really young, like women were attracted to me. So I used it to like manipulate and get what I wanted. You know what I mean? It was like, it's not a good thing. It's a bad thing that I was like that, you know, and I realized that. So, but like, I'm being 100% honest. Like, I feel like, you know, like being transparent and honest is like the only way to really get to somebody or be honest and touch somebody's heart, is just being real. Like, hey, it is what it is, you know? But anyway, so there was like some young girl working at the, when I say young, she was probably like 21 or 22 and I'm like 15. So there was some young girl living there or working there at the place, right? So I started talking to her. To me, she looked like she was like cool. When I say cool, I mean like she looks like she parties or does drugs or something. I started figuring that stuff out when I was young because I was selling a lot of drugs and stuff, and I would like learn how to look at somebody and be able to tell if they were cool. Like if I could talk to them and try to sell them something. So, anyways, next thing you know, uh, oh, so I'm trying to like the thought comes to my mind. I'm like, man, I wonder if I could get this lady I'm talking about, to help me get out of here. Because I'm telling you, like, I would try to run. I'm talking about cops would try to arrest me, like, I'm running, like, however I need to get away, like, 90 on a 45, like, I'm getting away. Like, I was crazy, like, for real crazy. Um, but, so I used to run from cops, and I come back to my mom's house. I'm hiding up under the stairs. Cops would come and have to try to get me out of there. Like she would tell them sometimes, like, he's here. I was off the chain. She was trying to help me, but like, you know, because my mom loves me to death, and I love my mom. So like, I'd speak to her like, uh, I'm gonna get off track for a second, but I remember one time, and I'm gonna tell you all this. But I remember one time, like right before this had happened, I think one time I'd have been in like this rave party and out partying all night and stuff, and I was tripping on acid, and I never had a bad trip. And I didn't even realize I was having a bad trip. I think it was just like depression coming in after the trip. But I remember coming back to my mom's house, right? And early in the morning, and I came inside my mom's, and I was like, and I cried. And I was like, Mom, I was like, I don't know what's wrong with me. Like, I don't know why I'm like this. Like, I don't know why my pants sag, and I cuss and I steal stuff and do drugs. Like, I don't even know why I smoke. I don't know why I listen to bad music. Like, I know it's not right, you know? And I was like messed up, and I went and got into the pool, and like tried to like get into the pool and pray and come out of the pool a new person. Like I knew that what I was doing was wrong, but like it was like my flesh just had control of me, like over, you know, wanted to do right. I felt God tugging at my heart though. I'm gonna keep that real. Like I did. I just wasn't ready to say yes. Seemed like I had too much to do still before. Um. So, but anyway, so I thought, I had it in my mind. I'm like, this girl, like she's old. She's older than me, but like, I think she likes me. You know what I mean? So I tried to talk her into. I was like, man, I'm gonna talk her into like let me get out of this place. Like we can go on the run together. You know, like I was off the chain. I'm crazy. So anyways, we go outside, right? Well, the first thing I was gonna try to get her to do is give me a cigarette, right? So I'm like, man, she's like flirting with me, man. Like I'm fixing to ask this guard for a cigarette, and dudes around me are like, yeah, Ray, she ain't finna give you no cigarette. I'm like, man, watch, bro, check this out. Uh, but next thing you know, we go outside and we realize, oh, there's a basketball hoop, right? There's a basketball hoop outside, and what you call it? There's a basketball hoop out there, and they got one of these fences that keep you from getting out, like a guard fence, but there's no barbed wire on it. It goes 10 feet up like this, and then 5 feet in, which keeps you from being, oh, and it's like chicken, or whatever you got, where the holes in it are like this big, instead of like a regular fence having holes like this big. They're like this big, so you can't stick your fingers in it, right? So it's like impossible to get over this fence, like 15 feet. And we're out there playing basketball, and I look at the basketball hoop, and I'm like, man, that basketball hoop rolls. And it came to my mind. I was like, man, I guarantee you, if they roll that basketball hoop over to that fence, I can get out of here. Like if I stand on the like if I put my feet on top of the backboard, literally, like if I can crawl up the pole, put my feet on the basketball hoop, and then crawl up the backboard and stick my feet on the backboard and like jump up and over, like, and I'll get caught right here on the very top of that part that comes in. But if I can squirm and rip my shirt and all that stuff to get over it, I can get out of here. I'll slide down that fence on the other side and just start running, right? So next thing you know, but there's a guard out there, but one of the guards goes in and it's just the lady. So I tell the lady, I'm like, yo, I'm like, can you do me a favor? And she's like, what? And I was like, can you just walk inside? And she's like, walk inside for what? I was like, cause we want to do something. I was like, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. It's good. It's good. It's good for me, for real. Like, I'm just like trying to like, you know, be like cute and funny or whatever to get her to do it. She did. She went inside. She's like, I swear if this gets me in trouble. She goes inside. And sure enough, I get the guys to help me. We wheel the thing over and I jump up. So now, anyways, to make a long story short, the reason I tell that story is because that right there gave me an escape charge. I jumped that fence. I ran. I did exactly what I just told you. They wheeled it over. I climbed up the basketball hoop. I jumped the fence. Now I'm a fugitive. I'm on the run. I just escaped from the county juvenile. You know what I mean? Like I'm taking off. And so that right there, first of all, that charge was always on my record, even when I became an adult, and I was always in maximum security because of that charge. It never went off my record. But anyways, so the other reason I tell you that is just to tell you like part of what was going on in my life. Like that's how crazy I was. Like who does that? You know, like how normal is that? That's not normal. Like people don't just escape and run from jail. It's not a normal thing. But like to me, it was just like part of my daily regimen. Like I'm like figuring out the next way to get away and get high. I literally in my mind was going right back to doing what I was doing in that city. I was like, man, I forget this. I'm going back to that cocaine and those pills, like, and these girls. Like, I'm fixing to get back, man. I should be making money right now. Like, why am I sitting in jail? Like, that's how crazy my mind was. So I took off on the run or whatever. And I went to the house. My mom would never like keep, you know, like I couldn't like put her into that situation because I felt like, man, she has to tell on me in situations like that. So I would just try to run off. So, you know, right, or certain situations, I just wouldn't tell her. She'd be like, what's wrong? And I'd be like, I just can't tell you, but I can't be here. I gotta go, you know, like situations like that. But I put my mom through it. So yeah, but anyway, so along with that charge, I'd racked up 9 felonies and 17 misdemeanors. I was 15. I had everything from stolen cars to burglary, grand theft, you know, trafficking, possession with intent to sell, possession, like everything you can get really. Besides gun charge, I didn't have that. I didn't really mess with guns because my real dad, I found out, got shot in California. I just always try to avoid guns, like, this is like making me shaky even talking about it. This stuff's so far from where I'm at in my life right now. Ooh, it's like even just the thought of feeling like that is just crazy. But anyway, so yeah, I was like, I ended up going to court, right? When I went to court, this is when I was 15. I had 9 felonies and 17 misdemeanors. And they were going to send me to prison. They were trying to put me in the adult system. So they were trying to adjudicate me an adult, right? So what that means is they take you from the juvenile system and put you in the adult jail, and you go to adult court instead of juvenile court with the adult ability to sentence you. So I was like really worried that was going to happen, right? The reason I got all those charges was, this is another thing, right? So like I catch a felony, right? They lock you up. They take you to the juvenile detention center. They would keep me at the juvenile detention center for about 21 days. And then if I didn't have a certain amount of points, which convictions got you points. If I didn't have a certain amount of points, they'd let me out. They'd have my mom come get me. They used to call my mom all the time. Like I guarantee you, my mom like is probably, when she sees this, will cry. Like, for real. Like, I feel really bad. Like, the man I am today, looking back at that, like, she never even brings that stuff up ever. But I know that it happened, you know. I'm sorry, Mom. We've talked, you know, but I can't even imagine. Oh my gosh. But yeah, so man, they would let me out after 21 days, and I'd just be right back ripping and running. So then I'd get locked back up. I'd sit there for 21 days. I still hadn't been convicted yet because I was catching cases so quick. So I hadn't been to court for sentencing and pled guilty. So I never had enough points for them to keep me. It was weird the way the system was set up. So, what ended up happening though, I went into court and they offered me boot camp. They offered me boot camp. And this boot camp was like a last attempt. They don't even have a lot of these boot camps no more in Florida because they used to beat the inmate kids and the inmates up. Kids died and everything. They used to brutally mess people up. Like, people would have like heart problems and break legs and arms. But anyway, so I'm going to pick my story back up. I'm 37 years old. Okay. This story is going to lead into me going to prison in 3 different states and getting arrested in 12 different states. And I'm going to tell it. I'm going to tell it like it is, you know, just to reach even one person that can go, wow, that's how my life is right now. How did you get out of that? So I can tell you about Jesus, like, for real. So, but I'm going to cut this off right now because I said this was a series. We're at 42 minutes. So I thought to myself, somewhere between 30 and 45 minutes or an hour. So I'm going to cut this one off right now. What I would like to know is what you guys think about what I'm telling you about. Some of you guys may know where I'm at today in my life and, you know, like what Jesus has done in my life. So we can't do nothing but give glory to God, because if I came from that type of situation and this is what I'm doing right now, what happened? God changed me for sure, because I wouldn't even be having this conversation with you right now if I was still locked into all that stuff, right? So that's what this is all about. I'm going to get to that, but I'm just telling my story. So anyways, leave something in the comments. Tell me what you think about this. Do you want to see another video? Should I share more? Should I tell you what else happened? Because there's years of stuff that happened. I'm only 15 years old in this story that I'm telling you. I haven't really got into none of the crazy stuff yet. So if you guys would like to see more, just leave a comment. Let me know. Probably going to tell it anyways, but I'd just like to know what you guys think, you know, what your thoughts are. But I love you. God loves you. And hopefully my testimony can touch somebody, because like I said, there's people that are going through it. This guy told his testimony today to me. He's like 23 years old. And I was like, bro, I went through a lot of that stuff when I was a kid. And I thought to myself, like, who am I to hold back what has happened in my life? Like, who am I to not share what God has brought me through? Like, that's crazy. I'm not going to be ashamed of it, because this is what God has brought me through. I feel ashamed of the things that I did, but at the same time, I did those things and God chose me to call me into his righteousness. So obviously it has nothing to do with works. He knew all the bad decisions that I made when he chose me in Christ Jesus, and he knew all the bad decisions I was still going to make. So obviously God has a heart for the lost, right? That's what the whole point is. But anyways, I love you in Christ. Hope you guys like this part of the series.